microcytic anemia, so a form of anemia, electroencephalographic abnormalities, dermatitis and chelosis, scaling of the lips, cracks, and corners of the mouth, glossitis, so swelling of the tongue, depression, confusion, and weak immune system. Thanks, birth control. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Jacque Show. Today, we're going to dive into another controversial topic, and I'm going to approach it just kind of how I've been approaching some of these previous podcasts, with a no-nonsense kind of demeanor in this particular topic, because this is a topic that drives me crazy. I wish we knew more about it when I was a kid growing up, when my parents were growing up. It wasn't quite as prevalent as it is when we were. But it's a birth control topic. And so birth control is one of those things where people will come out of the woodwork and they'll say, Dr. Jacque, what can I take for birth control? And my immediate response is nothing. Don't take anything. There is no reason, no time, no issue, no disease, no nothing that would tell me to tell you that it is okay to take a birth control product. I can understand that doctors manipulated your brain into thinking that it is safe, that it is okay, that it is not going to do any damage, it's not going to impact your fertility. But that's not the case. And anybody who's ever been on birth control can speak volumes to this. It's one of the dumbest medications that have come out. And to me, it's one of those things, it's another permission slip or like a blindfold that you can put on to try to cover up your shitty decisions. And, obviously it's easy for me to say that now, right? Because I'm an adult, I'm married, I've got 2 kids. So, if we do get pregnant, that happens, right? But I also have that certain level of maturity and personal responsibility that if I do that and I do conceive a child, I and my wife, or you and your spouse or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, chose that route. And there's a podcast that I'll do maybe next episode or not about the whole abortion thing. But today we're just going to focus on birth control. Okay. So not just birth control, but what it does and then how you can come off of that, because nobody should be on it. Period. Nobody should. It's a huge marketing scheme, causes a ton of damage to our women out there. And to me, it should be medical malpractice when a doctor says you should go on birth control, especially if they're using it for off-label purposes, which would be like, oh, you have acne, take birth control. Oh, you've got this type of depression, take birth control. Right? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't ever, birth control never in the history of ever has corrected an issue as to why you had hormonal problems to begin with, or why you had acne to begin with, or why you have depression, or why you have some of these other disorders to begin with. So remembering what I do, I'm a doctor of root cause, right? We go after the root cause. Why were you having that mood issue, that mood disturbance? Why was there a disturbance in the mood? Why were you feeling that way? Or why were your hormones off? Were you eating horribly? Were you over-exercising? Were you under-exercising? Were you just pounding down processed carbs and stuff, just like the American Medical Association would love us to do? Eat the SAD diet, standard American horrible diet. That's where we could start. This is something that, and I'm not going to go into specifics on each birth control this time. This is going to be a blanket statement. You're coming off birth control. This is what you should look for. This is what you should do. Number 1, this is something that I talked with a good friend of mine, Regina, and we talked about this, and she experienced this, right? Where a lot of women, they're put on birth control when they're in their teenage years, right? You have PMS, PMDD, and they're like, okay, we're going to give you birth control. And then, 13, 14, 15 or so, you're on birth control, you get through college, and then all of a sudden you hit your 30s and you're like, maybe I should come off this birth control stuff. Maybe it just doesn't feel right. So you've had like 10, 15, 20 years worth of this, 20, hopefully not 20 years worth of birth control in your system. So number 1, the most important thing is that fear component to it, where if a woman has had horrible cramping or bleeding or painful breasts or whatever that might be, any symptom associated with that PMS or PMDD, then that pain is deeply rooted as your why that you take birth control, right? It's a strongly rooted why, which is what we need when we want to be healthy. We need a stronger why to put in place of that one, right? Why would I want to come off birth control? Well, because I want to be healthy and because maybe I want to have kids in the future. And if that's the case, I had better get off this now. Okay, you're going to see based off of some of the vitamins and minerals and stuff that birth control will remove from your body, that is going to be really important for you to come off birth control for a while to replenish those deficiencies, right? And you can go and you can find out which ones. You can Google it. It's very simple to do it. It's written everywhere. PubMed, there's tons of research articles on it. So we're going to dissect that as well. So number one, what did Regina and I talk about is that you are not the same person currently that you were when you got put on birth control, right? Unless you were put on birth control 2 days ago and you want to come off of it. Okay, maybe you're the same person. Right? But at different seasons in your life, you're going to have different stresses. Stress, we've talked about a million times on this podcast, is going to have a huge, profound impact on your health, on your hormones, and on your adrenals, your energy. And when we have excessive amounts of stress, think about being in high school and you're getting your period and you have stress of tests and stress of, trying to make the proper grades and, trying to fit in societally, and you're trying to do sports and you're just like, when do I even sleep? And you go to bed at 1:00 in the morning. No wonder women are having horrible hormones, horrible periods when they're in high school, right? Which again is where you're typically put on birth control. So are you still in high school 10, 15 years later? If your answer is yes, you may be the water boy going back to high school to finish up, right? No, but joking aside, you're a totally different person. You're 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years older than when you were put on this to begin with. So that's one of the fallacies or one of the big mistakes with medicine is that they have zero plan or zero intention to get you off of the medication that they place you on. Their goal and intent is to give you birth control for the rest of your life until you hit menopause and then maybe pull you off of it. Right? That would be the ideal scenario for the medical doc because that's years and years and years of prescribing customers, right? Super easy. Doctor doesn't have to do anything. Just, there's your script. Go ahead, have fun. Don't mind if you have to come back and get an antidepressant or your stool starts getting jacked up and then you have to go to a GI doc. And don't worry about that. It has nothing to do with your birth control because birth control only works with the hormones, right? So remembering too that you can't put anything in your body without every area of your body being impacted, whether that's water, food, or medications or supplements, everything is impacted, right? What if you took some cyanide? Is it just your throat that dies? No, your whole body dies. Cyanide, right? Same thing happens with medications. Every single portion is going to be hit. When we're trying to suppress or control your cycle unnaturally, then your body's like, oh shit, what do I do now? What, am I supposed to have a cycle? Am I not supposed to have a cycle? Am I supposed to have a little bit of a cycle? What hormones did you give me? Are these synthetic? Is this going to cause cancer? Is this going to bog down my liver? What's going to happen? Your body has no freaking clue because it's man-made. Man-made is bad. I was trying to think of other words to say, but it is man-made stuff. When man, and not men, but like when humans, right, are trying to create a pill to regulate something that God put within us naturally, you're messing up, my friend. You're going to mess everything up, which is also why I don't want humans to understand the human body at the rate in which we could be understood. There is a lot of magic within us. And my fear is that if that's found out, that they're going to try to manipulate the shit out of it, either dim it or control it with medications to make sure that we just keep dimming our light down further and further, right? So number one thing with birth control, you're not the same person that you were when you're put on birth control to begin with, right? So that means when you come off of the birth control, you're not in high school anymore. You might not still have some of those same stresses that you had previously. Your gut health might be better because you're not eating Subway and McDonald's in between sports. Levels of activity are going to dim back down to a reasonable rate versus an absolutely excessive rate, right? So we're having some normalcy that starts to come back, right? We find a spouse maybe, and we're calmer. We're having relaxing nights. We're responsible enough to make sure we're drinking water, getting a good night's sleep. You know what I'm talking about, right? So then if you come off birth control and you had bad cramping, you can't immediately expect to have cramping when you come off. But that's a deep-rooted fear. That's what keeps people on these medications. I don't want those cramps. I remember those cramps. It could have been 10 years ago, and you're still like, oh, I used to have to call off work. I would have to take 15 ibuprofen. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. You're not the same person. Okay, so when you come off, there's ways to detox, and we'll talk about it, cleansing out the liver, getting the gut all right. Not all right, getting the gut fantastic. So that way, when you come off, you're good to go, right? When you come off of birth control, there's some prep work to be done, and I'll explain it by what is diminished when we're put on birth control, when women are put on birth control. And heaven forbid men, which I wouldn't be surprised if they try it soon, but if men are put on birth control, there's going to be some similar things that we're going to be talking about. I don't think men will go quietly into the night with the whole birth control thing. I think men will stick up because we're more aware of it. We're more aware of what they're doing to us. But anyways, so not the same person, right? And then when you come off of it, you want to give yourself anywhere from, I would say 90 days to like 3 months, 4 months, up to like 6 months or so for your cycle to kind of recalibrate. Okay, because what needs to happen is when you're telling your body what to do with a pill, then your body is subject to doing what that pill says. When you remove that voice, that pill, then your body has to wake up and be like, oh, shoot, I am deficient in progesterone. So I need more progesterone. So it radios back. It has these feedback loops. Hey, I need more progesterone. Oh, more progesterone means, okay, we have more cortisol. Our adrenals will start to come back up again. Oh, by the way, I need proper estrogens. I need this. I need that. And so your body starts barking orders back up to your brain to say, hey, I've been sleeping for a while. Wake me up, buddy. Because that's what they want to do. They need to. They need to come back online. And hormones can take anywhere from like 3 to 6 months to mature, basically. And a lot of it does have to do with your liver function. So when we were prepping to come off of birth control, we have to know what birth control does to us. And so it just riddles us with high levels of deficiencies, okay? Mostly in your vitamins, right? So I'm going to go through these. When we're talking about the vitamins, we're going to go in numerical order here. I got my little slideshow pulled up here, but we're going to start with vitamin B2 or riboflavin. Okay, riboflavin. What is that used for? It's used for growth, development, function of all cells in the body, and it helps turn what you eat into energy. Okay, so what does that mean? So if we're deficient in riboflavin, or B2, then we're going to struggle to have energy. Extrapolate that further, we're going to have less ATP in the body. We're going to be fatigued. Our adrenals aren't going to be able to keep up. We can hit states of chronic fatigue and other energy deficiencies that can take place due to being on birth control, right? Riboflavin deficiency can cause fatigue, swollen throat, blurred vision, and depression. There you go. Okay. What about this? This isn't good. B2, being low, depression, there's a mood disorder. Guess what? You just got put on birth control. You, my friend, just added another medication to your medicine cabinet. You are now depressed, and you don't know why, and your doctor won't tell you. Right? So you have to figure this out for yourself. This is where becoming your own health advocate comes into play. All right, so B2, these are some of the things that can happen. It can affect the skin by causing the skin to crack, itch, and even cause dermatitis around the corners of the mouth, at the cracks of the mouth here. It can cause hyperemia and edema around the throat, so swelling in the throat, liver degeneration, hair loss. Sorry, women who are losing your hair, can cause some hair loss there, and you can have reproductive issues. Just that one, we could close up this podcast and say birth control isn't good for you. This is one of the vitamins it depletes, is B2, which is one of the vitamins that not many people talk about. Truthfully, they don't. Right? What's the next one here? Vitamin B6. So B6 is huge for the body. It's absolutely huge. So what does it do? When we're talking B6, it can cause inflammation again or dermatitis, which B2 can also cause deficiency with. And you can have a red, greasy, scaly rash. That sounds great, right? Hands and feet may feel numb and prickling like pins and needles. What does that mean? That means your neurological system, your nervous system tissue is damaged because of B6 deficiency due to birth control, right? And this isn't like you take birth control and automatically, boom, these vitamins are depleted. It takes time. However, if we're not supplementing these in over time, you will accumulate all of these deficiencies, and you will learn at the end of this, it's not good. It's not good to do at all. Again, no excuses for being put on birth control. B6 associated with microcytic anemia, so a form of anemia, electroencephalographic abnormalities, dermatitis and chelosis, scaling of the lips, cracks, and corners of the mouth, glossitis, so swelling of the tongue, depression, confusion, and weak immune system. Thanks, birth control. Thanks, medical doctors with your white coats. You're doing a great job at keeping us healthy while being on birth control. And so far, have any of you who are either on or were on birth control, did any of you know just those two right there? Probably not. Why? Your doctor doesn't tell you. They don't give a shit. You come in for a problem, they're going to give you something to shut you up and get you out the door. And I'm becoming that crass because that's literally what they're doing. They don't care. They don't. So you have to care. You have to be the one to dictate your care. I just talked with a patient today who had one of the worst medical experiences that I've heard of. Short of one of my buddies back in Pennsylvania, who I believe was his sister, was supposedly diagnosed with liver cancer, and they wanted to rush her in for treatment that night. And she said no because he had talked to me. And then the next day gets a call from the doctor that said, oh, whoops, that wasn't cancer. You're fine. Wow. Right? How many times does that fucking happen? This one was, again, just poor doctor, poor bedside manner, poor blood draws, poor everything. I'm like, good Lord. Talking to this, I'm like, I'm anxious. I'm in tension right now just from listening to your experience. Right? So they don't give a shit. And the sooner we learn that, the healthier that we're going to be. The more it's going to make them mad, but the healthier we're ultimately going to be, because we have to be our own health advocate. It's simple as that. Moving on. So B6, another thing with B6, and you'll see the next one, B12, it's also imperative to have B6 for other certain things in the body. There's different organic acids tests that you can run that you can see your B6 markers, chiurinate, things of that nature that can show, but also you need that for your methylation activity. If you have a COMT deficiency, MTHFR, we want to make sure that we have proper methylation. If B6 is low, we can have a difficult time clearing out those excess estrogens as well. It's also a coenzyme, or it helps fuel a lot of coenzymes too in the body. So it's just used everywhere. Okay. And if we're depleted, then good luck getting your body to run. Again, coming down to just a nervous system issue, not good when your nervous system is under attack. And speaking of nervous systems being under attack, let's now move to B12, right? B12 is a big one. People are getting B12 injections because of chronic fatigue. They're trying to get their B12 up to be able to methylate properly. They need methyl donors, cyanocobalamin, methylcobalamin, you name it. We need to have proper levels of B12. If B12 is low, you probably know a lot of the symptoms associated, but it's going to be the weakness, tiredness, heart palpitations, lightheadedness, pale skin, smooth tongue, constipation, or diarrhea, or you can have a loss of appetite or gas. Nerve problem, again, associated with numbness, tingling, muscle problems, weakness in the muscles, problems walking, vision loss. B12 is needed to form red blood cells and your DNA. We kind of need our blood and we kind of need our DNA. This is one of the things that's really important whenever it comes to overall health. Helps with brain and nerve cell development. B12 binds to the protein of the foods we eat in the stomach. Hydrochloric acid and enzymes unbind vitamin B12 into its free form, and then we absorb. Right? So we need B12. Very important. What about folic acid now? Right? I don't even really like to say folic acid because I don't like people thinking that they need to supplement in folic acid. You need a folate. An activated folic acid, basically non-synthetic version, because folic acid is synthetic. But if you are low in folic acid, this is one where it is very important that if you're prepping to get pregnant, that you have to make sure that you've been off birth control and you've replenished your folic acid or your folate, right? Because if we get pregnant, heaven forbid, somehow you get pregnant while on birth control, if your folic acid or your folate's super low, then you're going to have a higher risk for nervous system disorders in your child. You can have spina bifida that can take place, or neural tube defects that take place due to a decrease in this particular vitamin, right? Folic acid. So if it's low in this, then you can have tiredness, you can have some fatigue, be lethargic, muscle weakness again, neurological signs such as pins and needles, tingling, burning, peripheral neuropathy, numbness in the extremities. If we're kind of seeing a trend here, we're going down kind of the B vitamin cascade here with some folic acid in there as well. And so what we're seeing here is a lot of nervous system damage, right? Nervous system, it's not good. What else is going to be depleted? Let's move on from here. Folic acid, we went over it. Vitamin C, master antioxidant, right? It's also used for cartilaginous, so collagen. So it helps with that. It helps with the adrenals. If we're deficient, we've all heard of the term scurvy before, where they told sailors to eat oranges to make sure they didn't get scurvy or vitamin C deficiency, but you can have fatigue, depression, connective tissue defects, gingivitis, petechia rash, internal bleeding, impaired wound healing, adrenals burnt out, cartilage and joint pain. There goes your vitamin C, right? And the next one I hear about a lot. This one it's probably one of our most depleted nutrients, micronutrients. It's magnesium. There's about 1,000 different forms of magnesium that are out there. I'll probably just do a podcast just on the different forms and what they're used for. But magnesium is then depleted. So you're going to have loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, weakness, tired, shaking, pins and needles again, muscle spasms, hyperexcitability, sleepiness. Over time, magnesium deficiency can weaken our bones, give you headaches, make you feel nervous. It can hurt your heart. It can also lead to low levels of other minerals like calcium and potassium. High levels of magnesium are much less common than low levels. Okay, so what does that mean? Right? Magnesium is used for so many different vital processes of the body. We talked about the adrenals in there. It's also something that's important too, because birth control, or BCE, can cause a lot of issues with constipation. And I've known a lot of people that are like, oh, I used to have irritable bowel. I had diarrhea all the time. Then I got put on birth control, and now my bowels are normal, quote unquote normal. They're not really normal. They're medicated normal. That's not normal. It's not healthy. Because when you come off it, what happens? Right? You deal with issues. Or it's going to trigger recurring yeast overgrowth, which is another side effect of your birth control. So what do we do? Right? So what do? We want to make sure that we replenish magnesium. You have to. All right, especially if you're adrenally burnt out and you're tired all the time, magnesium is one of the most important things you could take in. Okay, in really any form, you just get some magnesium in at that point. The other one is going to be zinc. So zinc is stupid important for everything. Immune system, for testosterone, for hormonal help. I mean, it's used in like everything in the body. When we talk about the COVID word, zinc was one of those nice fighters that if you got like an IV bag, they throw zinc in there and they're like, hey, that's going to help you fight that COVID off, because COVID can't stand zinc. Zinc will crush it, right? Now, if you're on birth control and you got COVID, your zinc is low. Good luck with your immune system, right? Not just for COVID, but for whatever you come across. It's going to be difficult for you, right? So we have to make sure that we're aware of that. So we supplement that in. What if a woman has low testosterone, low libido, low sex drive, low zinc? Can't make testosterone, right? So what is it? What's going on here? When we talk about the birth control and what it does to the gut here, okay, I feel that nobody really talks about this one. This can cause an increased risk of Crohn's disease. Birth control can. Increased risk of Crohn's. When was the last time you ever heard that? You're probably not going to hear that on commercials for the prescriptions. You're not going to hear that on any of that stuff. Your doctor sure as hell won't tell you that, but it's true. And if it can cause Crohn's disease, that means it can cause anything less severe than Crohn's disease along the way. It can give you issues with leaky gut or gut permeability. What does that do? It can cause infertility. Leaky gut is associated with uterine inflammation and infertility. Whoops. Sorry, we didn't tell you that when you got put on birth control. Good luck getting pregnant, right? What else is going to happen? It's going to, so birth control is actually going to change your microbiome. It's going to alter your good bacteria and your bad bacteria. So it's going to damage your gut. That's why a lot of women will get on birth control, and then all of a sudden they're having issues with SIBO, they're having issues with irritable bowel, they're having issues with candida or yeast overgrowth, UTIs, bladder infections. You're like, I keep getting these and I don't understand why this is happening. It's like, well, ever since I got put on birth control, this is what has been happening. Put 2 and 2 together, and what does that make? It makes common sense. And 4, right? So having this knowledge and being armed with this knowledge, right, is going to make us very, very, very powerful. Okay, and this is where I'm going to get intimate here. So I got my notes turned off here, so we're going to just dive in a little bit more. So what do we do now? It's great to have that information. It's great to know that birth control is terrible for us. And you might be listening to this and saying like, Doc Jacque, I already knew that birth control is terrible. I don't want to be on it. I want to come off it, or I've been off it. I don't know what to do, right? So first, we look at what nutrients we might need. What can be a good starting point for us, right? So we have different products that can cover a lot of things. One in particular, in my opinion, one of my favorite and easiest to take, it's Designs for Health. If you go to our store on Instagram, you can find a link in our link tree and you can buy a product. Okay. Suspense, drum on the product. Okay. You can either choose a B Supreme, which has a ton of B vitamins in it and just in one pill, or my preference is the twice daily multi packs. So twice daily multivitamins. Now, sidebar, I overheard a conversation in the gym like 3 weeks ago. And this guy was like, oh, I don't understand what the heck's going on. My daughter is all about taking supplements. You shouldn't have to take supplements. You should just be able to get it all through Whole Foods, right? In theory, yes, you should. However, our soil now is worse than it ever has been. We want to talk about issues with climate change. Fix the soil. Do regenerative agriculture. Get those nutrients back in the soil. It'll reduce our carbon footprint and make us healthier humans. Good luck, Joe Biden, doing that. I'll wait. Crickets, right? You don't even know your damn name. Anyways, so if we do this, okay, and we're like, well, what do I do? Multivitamin is going to be a great starting point because it's going to give you those nutrients, going to give you all those vitamins, minerals. There's a fish oil in there too to reduce inflammation in the body, help with brain function. It's kind of like an all-in-one. So if someone's like, Doc, I want to come off my birth control, what would you do? Get on a twice daily multi-pack as a starting point, right? Because we want to replenish what we're pretty confident is already going to be low. Okay, the twice dailies are going to have your calcium, your magnesium in there too. So it's going to help to cover that. And I believe there's zinc in there as well. If not, there is Zinc Supreme that you can take, which is one of my favorite supplements. I have a lot of favorite supplements, but Zinc Supreme is great. It's going to boost your immune system too, and it's going to help to replenish any type of decrease in your zinc. If you're worried about your vitamin C, you can do Stellar C, Stellar C, or you can do like a liposomal vitamin C if that makes you feel better. I like to take pills because it's a lot easier for me, but liposomal is going to be really good. It's going to be basically pushed into fat and it's supposed to be better absorbed, right? So that's a starting point, replenishing those things that were already previously low. We talk about the liver though. What do we do about this liver thing, right? So we want to see, hey, is our body methylating properly? Now for the liver, you can do like your typical test where you're looking at your liver enzymes and say like, oh, hey, like, am I going to have to worry about liver issues? Do I have liver enzymes that are through the roof or do I not? That test is great if your liver is damaged, but if it's not theoretically damaged, it takes a lot for those enzymes to actually push up high. And so we want to be proactive with this stuff. And I would say 100% of people out there have a damaged liver. From drinking, from food, from our water, from our air, from everything. It's a giant filter organ. It's like having a filter in our air filter in our car and pretending like our air filter never gets dirty because we we only drive it a couple miles a day or something. It's not the same, right? We have to make sure that we're cleaning that thing out because that is one of our master detox organs. It's going to be our liver. What else? We can do one of my favorite and non-favorite things to talk about, coffee enemas, right? Yes, putting coffee up the rear end, put the tube in, hold it for about 15 minutes up there, have a bowel movement afterwards, and then make sure you wash the toilet out, don't leave any debris. But that 15 minutes is going to cause some vasodilation, or it's going to cause your common bile duct to expand, which is going to allow your liver to pour out more toxins into your colon to get it out of the body. If you want to take it another level higher, this is where you can reach out to me and I can give you our protocol for the liver and gallbladder flush. It takes about a week for prepping of it, but basically you'll see a ton of stones come out, liver stones and gallstones come out. Even if you don't have a gallbladder, you'll still see gallstones come out because they'll go actually up into the hepatic ducts, the little branches that go up into the liver, and you'll see some of them still pop out, or you may still have some that are just stuck in gunk in a common bile duct. So when you open it, it dumps out. Okay. It's one of the safest cleanses you can do. You can do it while you're pregnant, while you're breastfeeding. If you do have gallstones, if you're having a gallbladder attack, you can do it. We've saved numerous gallbladders doing this cleanse, getting the stones out, and then they don't have to get their gallbladders removed. Okay. So it's really important. What else do we do? So we talk about the liver. Okay. And we could talk about vitamins and minerals and nutrients to detox the actual liver itself. Right. So there is a cleanse that you can do specifically for the liver in phase 1 and phase 2 of liver detoxification. Now, this is where things get a little bit more tricky and where I personally would suggest reaching out to somebody like myself before you push into this level of detoxing. And this is why. If your gut is not repaired prior to detoxing, your detoxing is going to be miserable and you can actually be retoxing while you're supposed to be detoxing. If you have gut permeability or leaky gut, which we talked about, it causes, birth control will cause, then when you're throwing toxins into the colon, then it's going to pop those toxins back out into the bloodstream and you're going to recirculate that. Not a good day. These morons that are out there are like, oh, that's just detox die-off. That's just detox symptoms. Keep pushing through. No, you're poisoning yourself with the toxins that were being pushed through the liver that you put back out into the bloodstream. They had no business being there, right? Toxins are bad enough, but when they get broken down into the smaller metabolites, they're a lot more toxic than the originals, which is why they need to get the hell out of the body. So if we recirculate that, then we're causing more poisoning, for lack of better words, from these toxins. So don't do that. So if your gut is like super duper squeaky, you know what? I'm not even going to tell you this piece because I don't want people getting hurt. That's a quick audible for me. It's not a cliffhanger. It wasn't intentional, but if you need help with that stuff, then get your shit tested. Literally test your stool first before you do a flush. The other piece that goes into this as well is that if you just jump on a post-birth control flush, right? And you're taking something that's by chance was suppressing your estrogens, and then you do a cleanse or a detox. Okay, if you do a cleanse or detox, what you're going to be doing is emptying your estrogens, which were already low to begin with. Not a good thing to do. What's going to happen? You're going to have more osteopenia, osteoporosis. Your joints are going to hurt like crazy. You're going to have cycle irregularities. It's not going to be a good day for you. We also need to make sure that you're taking the proper nutrients to go through phase 1 and phase 2 detoxing. Because if we have phase 1 going too fast, we're dumping a ton of toxins into the liver, go. And then phase 2 is a whole bunch of sleepy workers on Xanax and they're just like zombie working. Then you're not going to be able to clear the toxins at the proper rate and you're going to spill out and spill over more toxic burden, right? We don't want that. So fix the gut is going to be huge. Test the hormones, also going to be huge. When people are coming off of birth control, right? Super simple. Do a stool test, do a GI map. We can fix all day, every day there. When it comes to the hormones, I won't test females' hormones who have been off birth control for 3 months because then I'll get an accurate picture of what I'm working with. What is your body capable of doing without me doing anything to help, right? If you're like, I really want to get it back, then we can throw in some Chase Tree, some Vitex agonists to kind of get the cycle to go back, but I would still rather do it naturally, go figure, do it naturally to get your hormones to come up and then do a Dutch test on you. Depending on what your cycle's looking like, we can do different levels of the Dutch test. Dutch Plus, Dutch Cycle Map are like my two favorites. If you're coming off birth control, a cycle map would probably be something that I would work to push for you. Reason being is it maps out your entire month, sees any highs and lows and any other abnormalities you might have, so we can make sure that your fertility is preserved. Okay, because if you come off birth control, there's no guarantee your fertility is preserved. We have to get your body to make sure that it's working. Okay, so replenish the nutrients, multivitamins twice daily, multi-packs. Get some stellar C in there, some liposomal vitamin C in there, get some zinc in there too, right? You can do the coffee enemas, you can do the colon flushes, do or liver and gallbladder flush, and then do a stool test, do a GI map, okay? Do not go to a GI doc and ask for a stool test. Just don't do it. Do not go to a GI specialist. Those guys are almost as big a crooks as pediatricians or psychiatrists. I mean, they're not going to fix anything. GI docs are only going to test what they can medicate or put you on an antibiotic or antifungal or something else. They don't understand the intricacies of the body at all. Not even in a little bit. If it's not plug and chug, they don't give a shit. Because it takes time. It takes time, takes effort, takes brain power. Anybody, in my opinion, can be a medical doctor. That's a bold statement. I'm going to say that. Anybody can be a medical doctor. Is medical school hard? Probably, sure. But the reason I say anybody can actually be a medical doctor is because they don't do shit. You tell them the symptoms, and at this point, you go in and you ask for the medication that you want. So they don't really have to do a damn thing. Or they'll gather your symptoms, throw a diagnosis together, and say, this sounds like that's what it is. Guess what? Whoop, a list of all of their medications will pop up. You need this medication. This is your dose. We'll see how it works. Good luck. How hard was that? How hard was it? It wasn't hard. My son could do that. Shit, my daughter, Sage, could do that. It's not hard. And so this is what frustrates the crap out of me, is that these people that don't really have to do a damn thing for their job are trying to dictate somebody's health. They have no idea. They don't know how to do a proper health history. They don't know how to talk about trauma, generational trauma, relational trauma. They don't care because that does not fit into their codes that they can bill for insurance to give you a medication. They don't care. They do not care. They do not care. The sooner we realize that, the sooner we will be healthy. I keep this a thing. The second time I've said that so far this podcast, and it's true. It is 1,000% true. So replenish what has been taken from you. Okay, prior to coming off the birth control. There's no side effects of adding these vitamins in while you're on birth control. Don't worry about that. Okay, so you come off the birth control after you get your vitamins and nutrients back up on par. If you're super anal and you're like, I want to do a micronutrient test to see if I have all these things in there, cool, you can do that. Or you can do an organic acids test, which is a really great test that you could do and see how all of your organ systems are doing while under the influence of birth control. So that's another test you could do. Super simple urine test. Organic acids test. You could do that stacked with a GI map, and then boom, now you're going to have some protocols that you can build off of while you're on birth control to make sure that you successfully come off. And I'm not just saying like, oh, birth control is going to be hard because of withdrawal. No, I want your hormones to get back on track as quickly as possible so that you can resume life as usual, right? That's going to be key. But that stool test is going to be probably the most key thing that you can run for anybody. Kid, babies to elderly. If you haven't run a stool test, run a dang stool test. What are you waiting for? Honestly, what are you waiting for? Or are you scared to know what's going to show up on it? Right? Because stool test is going to give you a massive amount of information. I almost said inflammation, but it will do that too. But it will give you a massive amount of information on your current state of health. Right? Because birth control can throw off the gut microbiome. Can have an issue with a thing called beta-glucuronidase in there, which is a cancer marker, which then recirculates estrogens back out into the body. Okay, it can feed cancer. So knowing these things coming off birth control is going to be huge. Trust your body. Trust yourself. Trust a functional practitioner like myself or somebody else that does what I do, somebody that actually cares. The sooner you do that, the sooner you will feel fantastic. There's no miracle cures. There's no miracle detox packs that you can take that all these influencers are trying to promote. There's none of that shit that's out there that's actually going to work. It's just an allopathic medicine or holistic medicine. Take this. For how long? I don't know. Just take it. How long? We'll figure that out. Because if you don't fix the problem, you're always going to be on that supplement or always going to be on that medication. So fix it, correct it. And then when you get your hormones back to normal, as a woman, you're going to have a boatload of freedom associated with that. The number one thing is like, oh, I don't want to have a kid yet. Okay, cool. Then map out your ovulation. 28-day cycle, right? 14 days in is going to be when you ovulate. So plan about like a week or so before, 5 to 7 days before. And I would even go a little bit after ovulation, a couple days after. Don't have any sex. Or if you do, make sure you use protection, which is a condom. And then, or do oral. I mean, you could do oral all day for a week if you want to. Maybe not all day. If you have a job, that'd be awkward. But you can do that for that entire week or so. And then on the outskirts of that, then you don't have to run the risk of being worried about getting pregnant. There's your birth control right there. That's something that should be taught to every single teenage girl, not to influence them to have sex, but to make sure that they know, like, well, I don't have to be put on birth control. It's going to damage my body. I can do this instead. And again, not promoting sex with, young kids having sex. Trust me, I've got 2 freaking kids of my own. They both got their first kisses this year, which scared the bejesus out of me. A 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. That's ridiculous. But anyways, I digress again. So if we can get this into parents, the education system, or if you're a teenager and you're listening to this podcast, talk to your parents about this stuff. But if you're 18 or so, talk to us. Schedule a consult and say like, hey, I've had these issues with my hormones. Nobody ever told me what was actually going on. So I don't even really know. I'm just stuck on this medication. I would really like to come off of this. Can you help me with that? And I'm like, yeah, let's see what we got. See what we can do. So don't be fooled by gimmicks or nutritionists or functional nutritionists or anybody who's like, just take this one thing and it'll cure everything. It's not true. It's not true at all. And me telling you to take the twice daily multis, that's not a cure. It's a replenishment. You're replenishing things back into the body. And like that guy was saying with his daughter, and he was like, I don't understand why we can't get all these nutrients from our foods. It's because our food isn't pure. It's not whole or as whole as we might like it to be, unless we're growing it in our backyard or if we have a farm that we're able to tend to ourselves. And then we have a higher likelihood of getting proper nutrition. So hopefully this podcast was educational, inspiring, disrupting, awesome, amazing. If you thought so, just leave a review on it. Let me know what you thought. Find me on Instagram, shoot me a DM if you're on birth control and you're trying to get off. If you have questions with that, I would love to be able to help you out. And if there's more specifics that you would like me to go in on a future podcast, DM me, find me, and I would be more than happy to do that for you. So everyone have a blessed, awesome, amazing rest of the day. And thanks for listening today.